NiteCallers Bigfoot Radio.
Good evening and welcome to NiteCallers Bigfoot Radio. I have no idea what day it is.
That's the 24th,
Sunday.
I think. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, it's Sunday, the 24th of September, and you're here with all the hosts, Lori, Lauren, and Ricky. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. How about all y'all?
Doing good. Yeah, we're doing well. Made it. Where am I going? Made it here tonight for the show, even though all of our allergies are acting up like crazy and all of that.
I know. It's like every one of us has got it, even our guests. So we're all going to try to move away from the microphone when we get up. It's just awful. There's just something in the air, and it's just really, it's getting everybody right now. Did you hear about the supposed rapture that was supposed to occur yesterday? Have you been seeing Facebook about that?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Just some of the funny things that people are, like I read this one post, this guy goes, darn, I guess I do have to go on and go to work. He thought he was going to get out of it.
We saw a funny post. Someone was saying that they thought about getting blow-up dolls and dropping them all out of a plane, so it looks like the rapture, all these people floating up. It was really funny.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And then I noticed also a lot about the NFL. A lot of posts about the NFL. People who say they're not going to watch football anymore. Of course, I don't think.
I'm sick of that. I say fire them. If you can't stand up and salute the flag in the nation that you're in, get the hell out. Fire them. Sorry. That's my 2 cents.
Well, tell us what you really think, Ricky.
I know, no kidding.
That's it. Fire them.
I guess.
They get paid, what, $30, $40 million a year to play football? And there's people that go out and save other people's lives and they barely scrape the bottom of the bucket? No. You can't salute the flag, get out. Bye.
I agree. The Colin Kaepernick, now, he's the one that started it all, and he has not been offered a new contract.
He's playing.
I know he is, but he has not been offered a new one. And no one else is offering him a new one either. So, that might be saying a message right there. Yeah, if you want to create this big fervor and everything like that, but you're not going to play.
The Chicago Bears, the Bears and the Steelers game that went on I think it was today. The Steelers didn't even come out. There was one guy. He was a veteran. He's the only guy that stood out on the field.
Oh, my goodness. That's sad. That is so sad.
Bye.
Yeah.
I like what
a lot
Dallas
of people
said,
are
though.
upset.
He said, the coach for the Dallas team, he said, if you don't stand up, you won't play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that.
So, anyway, is there any Bigfoot news out there for all of us who don't really pay attention to that much Bigfoot news out there?
I haven't heard anything that made me sit up and take notice. So, no, not much. There's just
There are some interesting videos out there. I want to say that, but I haven't had a chance to really look at them. There are some out there. Well, there always is, but there seems to be more than usual. I think there's a lot of people that are going out in the field right now that it's kind of cooling off. So.
Yeah, also
But
with,
anyway.
all the rain and everything. And
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
A few
anyway,
weeks
all right.
before we took our, everybody at once.
Go ahead, Rick.
Before we took our little summer hiatus, I was on this little, it was like Bigfoot evidence page on Facebook, and they'd post something like three times, twice a week, and the whole time that we took our time off, I seen like 2 posts, and now they haven't posted anything, so I haven't seen any news coming from there.
Huh.
That was really the only Bigfoot thing I followed as far as Facebook went.
Right. Hold on, I'm going to have to mute.
Well, our guest tonight, she's, a lot of people really think highly of this guest, and we've had requests for her, so we're very happy to have her on here. We're very excited about that. So,
not only that, but she was nominated as Bigfooter of the Year.
really?
And I don't know if it's an official nomination, but on Facebook she was nominated. And then there was like all these posts after that said, yeah, this is it. And for a woman to get that, as I'm just tickled to death, because women are some of the hardest workers out there and the least appreciated or recognized. And so for her to get that vote, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I hope y'all
is
can't
awesome.
hear my dog hacking up a hairball downstairs.
No, but that is awesome.
Yes. So anyway, tonight our guest is Shelly Covington-Montana. She's from Dallas. She is a native Texan, and basically she is known for her wilderness and that she's a wildlife enthusiast with a passion for conservation and preservation. Her search was fueled by her husband's unexplained encounter in the winter of 1982 in the Forest Beach, Texas. So we're going to bring her on. Shelly, are you there?
I am. Good evening, guys.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Like you guys, I'm having a few issues with my allergies, but, that's, the life of a Texan. I mean, we get everything here, right?
Yes, exactly. I don't know. And I guess I don't know what we're going to do about it. I'm drinking some tea with lemon in it, see if it would help the coughing, but I don't know. So if I disappear for a second, it's because I'm coughing up a lung. And so I thank you so much, Shelly, for coming on the show tonight. I am thrilled to death to have the nominated Best Bigfoot Researcher of the Year on the show. Congratulations for that.
Well, thank you. I mean, first of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to the show. I appreciate it. It's been a while since I've done any radio interviews, but I really appreciate it, and thank you so much. And as far as the nomination, I don't know how official that is. I think Daniel pretty much takes into account what he feels is the Bigfooter of the Year. So I'm not sure if what you saw online was just people voicing their opinion. Actually, it wasn't
Daniel that nominated you to start with. It wasn't Daniel. So.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I think he was just asking what people's ideas were, but we won't know until that newsletter comes out. So,
yeah.
But it was a privilege for anybody. I'm very humbled by the idea that anybody would put me in such a category.
Well, we're delighted to have you on. Could you tell us about your husband's encounter? Because that was basically when you were first introduced to it. And were you married at the time that he had this encounter, or was this after that you were married?
Well, I will start at the beginning, just to kind of give everybody a little background on me. So, most people don't know who I am, which is perfectly great with me. Basically, I've been married for 30 years. to my husband. I've known my husband since I was 13
How is that
years old.
possible? When did you get married? When you were 5?
No. I'm fixing to be 54 years old, so
no!
Yeah.
No way!
Well, yes, way, but
Oh, my
thank
gosh.
you.
Well,
So-
you look fantastic. Oh, I guess Bigfoot is really good for your complexion. I don't know. I'm sorry. I just can't believe. All right. Well, anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt. That blows my mind. But go ahead.
Well, thank
I'll be
you.
quiet.
You're so sweet. No, it's you're very kind. Thank you. You know, being active, I guess, is one of those things that helps, and you know, we just need to keep moving. But anyway, I've known my husband since I was 13. Now he's older than I am. He's 9 years older than I am. So of course, at that time, he was quite a bit. You know, he was in his 20s. And anyway, we were neighbors, but later, I knew some of the same people he knew just because of being in the same neighborhood. But later down the road, when we finally did start dating, which was many years later, and we got married, he would always tell me this story about him and a friend of his, who I know very well, would go hunting down in South Texas, actually in the Angelina National Forest. And back in those days, back in the early 80s, you remember when the guys had, well, I'm assuming you guys remember, I don't know how old anybody is, but back in the early 80s, all the guys had the big four-wheel drives with the giant lift kits, you know, and that was where.
Yeah. Still
you remember
do that here.
Yeah. Right. It's becoming a new fad again, and it's awesome. I love it. I have a big truck, too, and I love my truck. But anyway, back then, you know, I mean, literally you had to have a step stool almost to get up into your truck, and the guys would go four-wheeling and mudding, and that was when, you know, the truck Bigfoot came along and all those things.
Yeah.
But anyway, my husband and his friends had those type of vehicles, but they would go to different locations here in Texas for the weekend and do hunting, you know, whatever. They were usually hunting coyotes or some kind of varmint or, you know, things like that. And Dawn had kept telling me about him and a friend of ours named Richard, who they had decided they were going to go hunting one weekend, and Dawn had decided to leave early. I think Richard had to work, and he went drove down to the National Forest, and basically what it was they went down this logging road, per se, and then he off-roaded another mile through the forest. Now, we can't do that now, but back then you could kind of get away with that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And apparently they had this spot that they like to hunt in, and he went down there by himself. I think it was probably on a Friday night, and he told me that really back then all he ever carried with him was his sleeping bag and his weapons and a little bit of food to eat. And he laid his sleeping bag out on the ground underneath the tailgate of his truck, you know, just in case of rain, built a campfire, and was laying there that night, I was just hanging out because Richard was supposed to show up the next morning. And apparently sometime in the middle of the night, something started circling his camp. And the problem was that it was breaking all kinds of trees and debris, and he knew it was extremely large, but at first he said he thought it was a cow, you know, stomping around, and then he realized where he was, and he was like, there are no cows out here. What the hell is that? And he said by the time it started to make the second round around his campfire, he said, to heck with this, jumped up, grabbed his weapons, I think he even left his sleeping bag, ran over the fire, and got the heck out of there. He said he drove all the way back to town, slept in his truck, at the gas station and waited on Richard the next day. Richard showed up the next morning, and Dawn was like, I don't know what the hell this was, but this was something big, and it ran me out of the woods. As my husband likes to say, he was invited to leave the woods. So, right? So him and Richard went back and discovered that there were just huge branches that had been broken right on the perimeter outside his campsite. You know, it's big around. When he describes it, I want to say, you know, bigger than a baseball bat type branches were broken off of trees that were, 7 feet up, and it scared the living daylights out of him. He told me this story over and over and over for 20 years, and I kept thinking, we're living in Texas, and I'm just trying to figure out, what the hell would that have been? I mean, come on, there's nothing, everything here wants to eat you, stab you, kill you, in the woods pretty much. But that just didn't make sense. And then finally one day I just looked at him and I said, that was a Bigfoot, wasn't it? And he said, I just didn't want you to think I was crazy. And at that moment, wow. I knew I was hooked. I was so, I've known my husband more than 40 years of my life. I know he's not a liar. I know whatever happened to him was a huge impression on him. And from that moment on, I dove into Bigfoot research and finding out everything I possibly could on the internet and, just researching as much as possible until our children were grown. And then once our children grew up and left home, I started on my mission. And then here I am today. So.
Well, so your husband is okay. He's cool with what you're doing then.
Oh, yeah.
He's not concerned about you being out there. He doesn't think it's unsafe or anything like that, does he?
Well, of course he has concerns. I left for the Pacific Northwest for 90 days this summer. I left on Father's Day, and I just got back 2 weeks ago today. And lived there in my truck with my tent and my four-wheeler and drove there by myself. He understands that I have a passion, and, of course, he does, he worries about me. He knows that people are dangerous. And, and, of course, the wildlife in the Pacific Northwest is completely different from the wildlife here. My encounters with such things are few and far between, but he also understands I'm an outdoorsman and I'm very capable of taking care of myself. I carry many weapons that I know how to use. I practice. I'm a huge advocate of practicing what you preach. When I ask people if they carry a weapon in the woods, and they tell me they have a knife, I pretty much tell them, well, that's a tool. Unless you know how to throw it, then it becomes a weapon. But I do carry large firearms, and I'm very capable. And like I said, I practice everything I talk about, including striking your own fire at all times. I never use a lighter. Even though I'm a smoker, I also make a point of practicing my survival skills every time I'm in the woods. I think it's extremely important to know what you're getting into and how to handle yourself in extreme situations. So I go above and beyond to make sure that I'm always well prepared and capable of taking care of myself, because I do feel my family suffers quite a bit from the fact that I'm gone for months at a time, and I know they worry. I have 2 grown children who support me, but yet they aren't thrilled that I'm leaving, but I want them to feel that I'm safe and I'm very capable.
That is awesome. That is
Thank you.
awesome. Okay, so do you stay by yourself most of the time?
I wouldn't say I stay by myself most of the time, but I do stay by myself. I prefer to have someone with me. I mean, it would be kind of silly to, to say that, I prefer to be by myself because especially when you're encountering other humans or wildlife that could cause you danger, it's always best to have another human there that you trust and who trusts you. But I do carry a satellite phone and a hotspot so that at all times I'm always in contact because I'm always out in areas where there is no internet or cell service. So I'm able to text people on a daily basis, which I do with my husband and my children and other close friends that are in the area. When I'm in Washington, Oregon, or California area, I do have some close friends that always know where I'm at, and my husband has their numbers. So, I always, I guess my biggest fear when I'm out alone is not necessarily the wildlife or other humans. It's things like just falling and breaking my leg or,
exactly.
Simple mishaps that, we don't think about so much that we should. So I try to take every precaution to be as safe as possible. So I do spend some time camping on my own. Yeah, I do. And in some creepy freaking places, girl, I'll tell you what.
You sound just like my kind of person. Oh, my goodness.
I do, when I'm on my own, I don't venture too far from my campsite. If I do, I make sure that I have my InReach on me and that it is tagging me every 2 to 10 minutes on my hikes. So I want to make sure that, if I do go missing, that someone will be alerted and know within, just hours of my disappearance.
Exactly. Well, can you tell me about your first experience, not necessarily a sighting, but that there was a Sasquatch in close proximity, and can you tell me how you felt when that happened?
Sure. Well, one thing I want to clarify with people is that I'm extremely skeptical of what people call Sasquatch evidence. I'm a pro-proof person. Unless you see Sasquatch doing it, we can't prove that that's what it was.
Right.
I believe the first encounter, or an encounter of a person, actually seeing a Sasquatch is probably the closest to the truth. Not saying people are liars. I'm just saying people are mistaken or not well informed of wildlife behavior in general and natural occurrences. So I can definitely share with you what I feel was something that was extremely important to me, that makes me go back to the area year after year. But I just want to clarify to people that just because I think it was a Sasquatch does not prove it was a Sasquatch. And that is my journey in all of this is truth. And I feel that we are, being, as far as a woman, being detail-minded, which I'm sure you are, because I think that is a special thing that women carry because we're mothers, and that's what we look for. That this is something that I want people to, I hope, my dream is that people start paying attention to the true details, not their emotions. Being mentally disciplined is extremely important in the field, and I don't find that many people are that. So,
no, there's too much sensationalism.
Absolutely.
There just really is too much of that, and yeah, it's a rewarding experience. If you I have had some experiences where I didn't see it, but I was very sure it was one. And basically because it smelled like one, it moved like one, and it just had all the earmarks. But could I say it absolutely was one? I mean, I saw eye shine. I mean, it had all, eye shine 8 feet off the ground. So it had all the earmarks of being an experience.
Right.
And but I had no proof. No proof whatsoever.
And
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I understand it's very difficult for people like me who, I don't really, I guess I refer to myself as a researcher, but I hate that word because I don't have a degree in this field, so I like to call myself an enthusiast, but I am a seeker of truth, and I understand how it is to get in the field and then come back and try to explain to people this is what happened, and people don't necessarily take what you're saying as full truth because we still don't have proof that that's what happened to you, So I just had to take that in consideration. That's why everybody that I either research with or visit with or consider someone who I like to work with, I need to see you in the field, and I need to see your reaction to average everyday happenings of your surroundings and such that are going on. Unfortunately, we have so many people that are the distracting types who we spend more time trying to explain to them why this is not Sasquatch. This is, a raccoon or such, and it takes away from the time, which in turn takes away from my time with my family because I'm sitting there listening to someone who's telling me I'm wrong because they're telling me it's a Sasquatch. But I try to take accounts into consideration. So I will definitely share with you what I feel was a Sasquatch encounter. I recorded everything, and I was with quite a few.
I do too.
That's fantastic. I mean, it helps. It helps us understand the difference. If we go back and we listen and then we actually grasp what we heard, look at it on things like a spectrograph or Audacity programs, and really, really, really research what we're listening to, send it off to others that can give you some kind of idea of what they believe this is and what they have found in the field, and make comparisons and try to eliminate everything first because Bigfoot should be last. So many people jump from A to C instead of going down the proper channels of elimination. And it's very difficult. I will admit, I get excited too when I'm in the field and something happens and you're not quite sure what it is, So, but for me, it took me a long time. It took me 6 months before I would even listen to the recordings that I had taken over a 3-day span during my quote-unquote Bigfoot possible encounter, even though I had other individuals there that are highly regarded in the Bigfoot community, I guess you would say, or maybe they're not because they're not necessarily on Facebook, that much. So my encounter, I had, this was in July of 2015. I spent, I think it was something like 8 weeks is what my journey was there that year. It was the first year, I believe, I'd been to this location. And I actually had gone up. I had come home for like 36 hours and immediately got in a car and drove back up to the Pacific Northwest to meet up with a researcher by the name of Kirk Brandenburg and another individual by Nathaniel York Burness, who are probably my top 2 individuals that I research with on a constant. These 2 gentlemen, if you do not know them, you should. very discipline-minded, scientific-based individuals, and I'm just so humbled and honored to be a part of their group. But anyway, this was when I had met them, and they'd taken me to a location, and like I said, we had driven up there basically in 26 hours, a nonstop trip. I mean, it was rough.
Goodness, that is a trip. Oh.
Yeah. We only stopped to get gas and a bite to eat, but that literally was like drive-through. There was no, there were no breaks whatsoever, but it was all good. I was excited. I didn't care. I was just glad to be able to go back, and I was going back, I think, for 3 weeks, 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So we get there, we get to this location, and come to find out it's an extremely important location for a lot of very important events that had happened in the years previously. And Kirk had taken us around to different parts of this area and explained to us the things that had happened there and the people that had been involved in and what had happened. So, but the thing that was just extremely, it was ironic, and yet it was cool, but I was still telling myself, this is crazy, this is not happening. Basically, as soon as we get there, I think it's around 6 o'clock or so in the evening, and this was a couple of days before the end of the month. And I would say by 8 o'clock, right as dusk is about to happen, this is the time of year where in the Pacific Northwest it gets dark around 10 o'clock. And this is in the Cascades, and so the sun is behind the mountains, and from where we were camped, the area, it was the primitive campground for hunters, but there's a river close by, a logging road, and then this ridge with cliffs on it that are directly in front of where we're camping. And I guess it was right at dusk, and up on the ridge, now I know if you hike the ridge, I think it's a 10-mile hike, so it's pretty tall ridge. I can't remember the elevation. I think it's somewhere around 7,500. I'm not really sure. I need to check my notes. But I hear this huge knock, or it sounds like a gunshot maybe, and I'm looking around. There's like five gentlemen there. And I'm like, did you guys hear that? And we'd all set out with recorders. I mean, the first thing you do, when you pull up in a location, first thing you do, set out your recorder. Whether it's gotten to where you just carry it, you throw a recorder on the ground. It doesn't matter, just turn it on. I don't care if you tell what date, time, it doesn't really matter. Just get that recorder on. So anyway, we had quite a few recorders out. And I hear this knock up from the ridge, and I'm like, did you guys hear that? And everybody's kind of like, yeah, but we're still kind of not really making much of it. It's just kind of like, wow, we just got here, really? And then a few, I want to say maybe 30 minutes later, another knock from the same ridge, but it's closer. It's further down the ridge. It's coming off the ridge. And I'm like, okay, am I crazy, or is that a knock? Is that a gunshot, or is that a knock? And the guys are like, no, that's a knock. And these are huge. They're gigantic. They're super crisp and loud and very forceful and just, this isn't just, it's either a gunshot or it's a knock. It's not a tap. It's not a possible. You don't have to whisper. You don't have to say, shh, did you hear that? It's above everybody's voices and everything going on around us. So by that time, everybody's got the recorders on. We've got all the FLIRs set up. Now, this group of gentlemen I also work with, we set up, at any given time, probably 5 different FLIRs. Usually 2 to 3 of them are motion-censored FLIRs, so anything that walks in the path will turn the FLIR on immediately. So all those are set up. And three of the guys decide, okay, we're going to do a night walk up the road, and another gentleman and I decide to stay there and listen and just talk. You know, we're just acting like stupid campers, basically. We're not trying to, you know, do not within do any knocks that I remember or calls. We usually don't do too much of that sometimes, but very rarely. And next thing we hear is another knock, and it's closer. And the guys call, did you guys do a knock? Nope. Did you guys do a knock? Nope. Well, we figure out the knock is in between us. No. They're out on the road, up the road probably half a mile, and we're at camp. So as time goes, we're continually getting these knocks, and they're coming off this mountain, but they're getting closer and closer. Well, actually, now they're very close. And then they stop. As far as I can tell, they stop, and we all go to bed. This goes on exactly the same way for 3 days. And it was like clockwork. Finally, on the third day, my guys tell me they think it's 2 days. I have all the recordings, but they're locked up in my old computer busted. I can't pull out the recording. I've got a little bit of it. I had saved on another computer, but I don't have the full length of all the recordings. I wish I did. But on the third day, we decide, okay, let's put all the big guys to bed, and then Nathaniel and I will set up in camp. Now, mind you, also, we have a cold camp. No campfire, no white light. We never use white light. If we use any light, it's only red light. And we try most of the time not to have a campfire. There was a burn ban going on during this time. So we also knew and were assured there were no other campers in the area, because campers in Washington do not like to camp if they can't burn a fire. And we'd been all over this area, and there was no one anywhere near us for miles. So we have a cold camp. We're sitting in the middle of the dark. Nathaniel and I are yelling and laughing and screaming, and here comes the knock. And let me tell you, it was so intense that I really pretty much was just like, that's got to be elk or something. It's just not a big, I just can't. Really? A vixen's going to walk over here and just start knocking the tar out of these trees. Now, mind you, on the third night, we had two of them, one knocking on the right and one knocking on the left. And the one that was knocking really aggressively, and by the way, I have all of these recordings. I wish I had sent them to you so that you could hear them, but
yeah,
there was the one that came down every night, got so close to my camp and was knocking so hard that when it would hit the tree, the birds would fly out of the tree over my camp.
And you could hear this on the recording, or you could actually, was it close enough you could see the bark?
No, I could not see. I could see the birds flying over my. Now this was at probably 1 o'clock in the morning, but I could. Mind you, this is also July 31st, the third night, 2015, which was the night of the blue moon. I don't know if you remember that or not, but. And that was the other thing. I'm like, oh, right, a full moon, a blue moon, Bigfoot's over here knocking, sure. But I think I was exhausted to the point of just thinking to myself, this is ridiculous. You're tired. This is just natural occurrences. But it really wasn't. Because I'm hearing this thing move in closer and closer, and I literally can hear it walking through the woods. In the tree line, you could hear crash, bang, and then, just, I'm pretty sure I know what tree it was hitting. You know, that's how close it was, and how I just felt like, really? Wow, okay. But then there would be another one to my right that would give a return knock. Now, never once was there more than one knock. There was not 1, 2, 3 knocks. There was not 1, 2 knocks. It was always just one knock. I've never heard more than one knock. But this other one was sitting in a meadow, or what I believe, he was sitting at the base of the hill, right next to my camp, to my right, in an elk meadow. And it would do a return knock, but it was a passive knock. It wasn't like a really hard knock. It was a loud enough knock to where we could hear it clearly, but it wasn't. It almost was like the one that was moving in on camp was trying to get our attention, and we weren't paying attention. We were going out of our way to pretend we weren't hearing these knocks. And then the one on my right, it was almost like, yeah, they're still here. Yeah. They're still sitting there talking. And the other one's like beating the tar out of trees, like, do you hear me? Get up and move over here so I can see you better. You know, that's how I felt. You know, so anyway, we're sitting there, Nathaniel and I are, and we're talking, and I'm staring in the woods because all of a sudden I hear something moving across the tree line right in front of us. And he does too. You know, we're hearing this crash, bang, crash, you know, and I'm watching intently like I'm expecting this elk to pop out at any time. Okay, and then going right towards where the passive knock is coming from, down the hill, all of a sudden, there's the light, there's my tent, and there's the shadow of it just crossing through the woods. And I said, holy bleepity-bleep, what is that? And Nathaniel says, he looks directly at the bill of my hat to see where I'm looking, and he sees it too, and he sees the back of it as it goes down the hill. And at that very moment, I was like, don't talk, don't tell me what you saw. I don't want to know what you saw. We're not going to talk about this anymore. Tomorrow we're going to get up and we're going to draw what we saw. Because at that point, I thought, now I'm crazy. I need to not sit here and listen to others tell me what I saw, because I feel that at that point, you're polluting each other's memory. And so we didn't talk about it. We just got up the next day, and he drew what he saw, and I drew what I saw, and they matched. And basically it was the same clump of trees, and I saw it go through the trees 3 different times, and then he saw the back of it as it headed down the hill. And that's pretty much my first one.
Well, you know, you were talking about, let me get a drink here. You know, you were talking about setting out a recorder as soon as you get there. Mm-hmm. That is very, very good advice, because let me reiterate on this. If you are going to get a vocal, you will get it almost as soon as you get there. Because if they're in the area and they know you've arrived, they're going to vocalize. And I had one incident where it was several years ago. We were doing a live in the field show, and I was setting up my recording equipment before the show started, and I had taken the equipment down into this field, and while I was setting it up, I heard a roar. And I mean, we're talking about a lion's roar in East Texas. Now, I don't know anything that sounds like that. It wasn't a big cat. It wasn't a boar. But I was sick because I hadn't turned on my equipment yet to capture it, so I could at least analyze it or compare it to something else or send it to Corpus Christi, or just whatever I could do to try to find out what it is. And I was sick, and I can't tell you how many times that has happened that I wasn't quick enough. A lot of times when I'm rolling into an area, I have that bionic ear already on top of the car.
Sure.
I don't want to take any chances.
Sure. Well, and the thing is you don't need to spend a lot of money. I mean, you can go to Walmart and get a little Olympus for $35, $40 and get many, many hours of recordings out of it. I've got way too much equipment, but I have a Tascam MK1100, which is an expensive recorder. It does a good job, but honestly, I don't use it very much because it's kind of persnickety, and I actually bought that to set up what I did was I put a lavalier mic on it, meaning what they use when you're doing interviews in a live broadcast of people walking around. It's a little fanny pack thing they carry in the microphone, and it sends a signal back to your unit. So what I did is I hooked up this lavalier mic so that I could set out my parabolic like 300 yards away, and it would send a signal back to any recorder that you attach it to. And then that recorder I have in my tent with headphones attached to it so I can lay there at night and go to sleep with the sound. Well, it works great, but honestly, I don't want to listen to the woods all night long because it creeps me out.
It will do it. It will do it. I mean, every sound sounds like it's coming right up on your tent. If you've got somebody else in another tent, they're breathing, they're snoring, even, it will sound like, God, what is that?
Exactly.
And I can't sleep. I will listen all night long. Every sound I will listen. And, I agree. That's not a good thing to do if you want to. But, what, I don't get out as much as you do or for as long as you do. And many times when I go out, it'll be just for a couple of nights. And I don't sleep. I don't waste a single second of those 2 days that I'm out there, or one day, or whichever one it is. And once I retire next year, I would love to take a week and just, I'm going to tell you, I've had more activities when it was like a habituation type thing. Where I was living, there was it was a hot spot. Huge hot spot, lots of stuff going on, and I didn't have to go anywhere. It was right there. Right. Of course, now where I live, it's nothing like that. Nothing like that. I have even been back to this place, and they have. I'm not sure because I can't really camp there or anything. I don't know if it's the same, if it's been changed. They've done a lot of logging. I don't know if that affected it. All the trails that used to be there and the ways to get back in there are all gone. And it just made me heartsick. I loved that place, that knocking and everything that was going on. And go ahead.
What I will tell you is, with the guys I work with, we study, what we think we can find about patterns, as far as when these occurrences are happening, especially in what we, quote, hot spots. I will tell you, so just to kind of reiterate what's going on in this spot that this happened, so that was in 2015. So immediately when I saw it, and Nathaniel saw what he saw, everything stopped immediately. I mean, it walked right behind my tent. I was at least 30, no, I was probably 50, probably 30, 40 yards from my tent where we were sitting. My tent was in front of me. It's a tiny little tent. I don't sleep in that tent much anymore. But anyway, as soon as it made its appearance, it was done. It was gone. No more. No more nesting, no more knocks, nothing. It was Zippola. It was done with us. Whatever it was done.
Wow.
And so the next day, we decided, let's piss it off. Maybe that will entice it. Nathaniel and Kirk both experienced something at a different location where one of these things, which is a long drawn out story about the blonde one that did you see the report that Cliff Dartman put up about the blonde one that crossed the road in Washington near a Christian camp?
It does seem like I remember seeing something like that.
Well,
it was, what, a couple of years ago? Or?
Actually, no, this just happened in June.
Oh, okay. I don't guess I've seen that one.
Yeah. So, but the blonde one that I'm referencing to has been seen about 6 different times in this location. Anyway, Nathaniel and Kirk had gone there during the Falcon Project, right after things had fallen apart, just to be somewhere and camp for the night. Apparently, one came up into the camp and threw a 15-minute, or about 10 minutes, I think is what it was, 10-minute long hissy fit behind Nathaniel's tent, screaming at the top of its lungs and pacing back and forth.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Well, needless to say, the reporters didn't catch it because of battery failure or people didn't have their recorders on, you know.
Uh-huh.
You know how it goes. So,
the Bigfoot curse.
The Bigfoot curse, exactly. So, anyway, but Nathaniel, now a little bit about Nathaniel is that he lived in the woods for 6 months, all on his own, after he had an encounter when he was a young man, a very, very, very close encounter. So Nathaniel has spent many, 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 many hours practicing to scream and yell, and it's quite amazing and creepy and weird, and we had him do that exact same fit, per se, I guess, as best as he could, which I assume would probably be 10 times creepier, weird, and loud than what he did, but what he did creeped me out quite enough. We had him do the same situation up on the ridge behind us, which is just like a berm, and we got 2 tree pushovers that night.
During the episode. Pushed over?
Yes, ma'am. Now, they were up on the ridge, but we were definitely know what they were. So
that's definitely aggression right there.
Oh, yeah. The whole point was to piss them off, and if that was what it was, it sure worked, you know. So, but what I was going to say was as soon as they had done what they wanted to do, they were done with us. But only people got out of them was that next night, him, throwing the hissy fit, because there were no more knocks at all. They were done. And then we left the next day. We came back, I believe it was 4 days later, because my other close friend, Kirk Lindbergh, we have discussed, which we're working on a little bit of just a thought process and a theory of which he's talked with some other individuals about them being on somewhat of a cycle where they're rotating out food sources and going from location to location and ending up about every 6 days or so back to the location. So us 3 leave. We go all over the state, and we decide to come back on the 6th day. On the 6th day, we had gotten back into camp so late that it was just, I was literally just exhausted. And I always had put my tent in the tree line away from camp, which it was there, when all of that other stuff went on. But this time I had asked the guys, because I had had enough time to think about it. I was like, can I please just put my tent in between you guys? Because I'm not doing that anymore. You know, I mean, I'll never forget that night having to sleep in my tent after it walked behind my tent. And I just remember holding onto that 45 all night long with my little light on it. But anyway, they were like, sure. So I remember clearing out the area and making sure it was very cleared out, because I'm like the princess and the pea. There can not be anything underneath my tent. It's got to be a super
I'm
flat.
exactly the same way.
Oh, it
can't be a stick or a stone or
nothing. Yeah, a root, nothing. So we set up our tent, and literally I went to sleep in my clothes. I mean, I didn't even change into my nighttime clothes. I just was so tired. Well, I wake up before dawn, and I always pull the rain fly back around my window so that if anything is happening, I can just sit up and look out. And are you there?
Yes, I'm trying to turn my computer down. For some reason, it's full blast. I apologize.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
That's okay. I'm just making sure I didn't get dropped off the call. But so I'm trying to make sure. Well, I go to bed with forgetting to pull back the rain fly. You know. Anyway, I wake up and it's probably 5. It's about 6 maybe, right before dawn, and I'm thinking I'm having a nightmare. Something's waking me up, and I'm worried about my children, and I've been gone a while, and but I go back to sleep, and then I wake up again, and I'm thinking, am I hearing something? What is that? Or am I just having a nightmare? And I think, just go back to sleep. You're fine. You're having a nightmare. I try to go back to sleep, and then I'll wake up again, and this time I know I'm not dreaming. I know I'm not having a nightmare. Something is throwing stuff at the tree next to my freaking tent. And I can feel it hitting the tree and bouncing on the ground next to me. Now, mind you, this area, the trees are pine, but the pine cones are no bigger than a 50-cent piece. They're very tiny, and they're full of they're very lightweight. They're not great big. There's no green pine cones. There's no real large branches for deadfall. This area is very strange. It's, you can see the whole area, like all of the limbs on these trees are very small, but there's a lot of them, and you can see at least 20 feet up the trees are bare. And then the tops of the trees have foliage, but it's very minimal. It's a very different type of environment to what I'm used to. But I can feel things hitting the tree. It's so loud, it's making me jump, and it's bouncing next to my tent. And this goes on, and it goes on, and it goes on. And I'm just laying there. Now, mind you, I'm at this point, I'm scared. Because we just came back 6 days later from seeing this thing, walked behind my tent, hearing these huge knocks. And I'm in the recording, you can literally hear me calling out to the guys who I'm trying to whisper. I'm trying not to make any noise because I want to catch it on recording and on FLIR, I want to catch this thing. And but you hear me calling out Kirk's name. I'm like, Kirk! And nothing. Nothing. And finally...
they can sleep through anything, I tell you what.
I know. But finally, I hear the birds start chirping, and I knew it was okay. I knew I could get up. And I jump up, and I unzip my tent. I come out of the tent. The guys come out of there. Well, Dana was in a car, and Kirk was in his tent. I jump out, and I'm like, did you guys hear that? Did you hear that? And I'm like, hear what? We didn't hear anything. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Am I crazy? And Kirk says, he's like, yeah, okay, Shelly, okay, I had a recorder on. And I didn't even put a recorder out that night. I was so tired. I just completely forgot about it, thought nothing would happen. Kirk goes in, pulls his recorder, puts the card in his computer, and puts on his Bose headphones, And I look around the tree, and there's sticks, and now, mind you, there are rocks. And there is firewood from an old campsite that I know about that's up on the ridge behind us where Nathaniel had done his hissy fit a few days ago. And I know that it came from that campsite because we had done 2 days of recording all of our findings and possible things that this thing could have been after the first initial sighting and all of the wood knocks. So we had worked for 2 days just working and working and working, trying to make sure that we were recording everything about the incident and what it could have possibly been. So I know that there was no firewood because there was a burn ban in any campsite except for this one up on the ridge right behind where my tent was that night. We go up, and there's an exact straight line of sight from that little fire pit to where that tree was next to my tent. And there, lo and behold, is broken firewood. It's not real big. It's about as big around as a baseball bat. And probably, I think, I tried to send you the picture. I'll send it to you again. Probably about 8 inches to 10 inches long, and then stones about the size of a golf ball. And I took them home. So, and I have them laying on my shelf. But anyway, as Nathaniel and I are talking, and I'm showing him the things, I'm like, these are not here. You know they weren't here. All of a sudden, you can hear through Kirk's headphones without him taking them off, the stuff hitting the tree and Nathaniel's car. And he just looks at me and says, I am so, so, so sorry, Shelly. And so that was that. But 6 days later, so my point of that was, even though, as you say, these hot spots you go and now you're not having, I don't know, but possibly there is some kind of rotation as far as them moving out and going into other areas for different food sources. Not really sure, but I wouldn't give up on it. If you're having areas that are being logged, do plan on going back in about 4 to 5 years, because we know for a fact that logging areas are actually fantastic for the deer population and new growth. The animals do come back, then they come back twice-fold. So Don't give up on that. They were there for a reason. Logging, if they are logging an area, sometimes that can even be a good thing. So if you get into an area, let's say you have an area that's brand new, they're just now starting to put in the logging ropes before they actually log it, I would highly suggest that you go into that area and check it out. Because if that is the case and there are these creatures in the area, we are finding in many reports that that is a great location to be possibly approached, simply for the fact that you're going into a new area and you're tearing up their stuff, girl. So they don't want you doing it, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. So there are many, many, many reports on the BFRO website and such other report banks that are showing that newly logged areas are fantastic for having encounters. I'm not saying that's going to hold true every time, but it's what I look for. I'll put it that way.
Right.
If I can find a new logging location, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to set up camp, simply because your probability, it bumps up just a bit on that. So, I mean, that's just a theory, but give it a try. So, anyway, sorry, I'm long-winded.
Oh, no, that is absolutely fine. I'm having to get off the mic, and I've just got this horrible cough, and I just am having to vacate. Yeah, so I'm really, really glad that you are talking a lot tonight, and I'm glad. I'm thankful for it, really.
Well, not everybody
I really
feels
am.
that way all the time. I
have you had any experiences here in Texas? Have you been to Angelina National Forest or even Davy Crockett, Sam Houston?
I have. Have I had any encounters in those areas? Not anything that I can say is of significance. I mean, I've been in a lot of areas where I've had other researchers claim wholeheartedly, this is going on. We're having activity at this very moment, and I'm like, no, we're not. So have I heard knocks in the woods? Yes, but people get really upset with me because I scrutinize a little, to the point of frustration. To the point of frustration for the other researchers and to the point of frustration for myself. But that is why, I try to keep myself very grounded, and I feel like just a knock isn't going to be good enough. There needs to be more. There needs to be a compiled group of evidence together for me to say, yes, this was something that happened. Other than that, I consider it interesting, and going into the interesting file. Does it mean I won't go back to that location? No. That means that I'm interested. So I took my husband back to the Angelina National Forest where he had his encounter, and he was not happy. So and I've definitely been to the Sam Houston National Forest many times. Not much.
I've never researched there. I've never been to Sam Houston.
Well, I just I plan on going there this fall. But with all the hype on the Twin Up Camp mess and all that silliness, and I've been there. I think that it's probably a little overrun right now by individuals knocking and screaming and reporting that there's activity going on in that area. So I tend to try to put myself in a lot of locations to where I'm not necessarily, I do a lot of, I hunt, I fish, and I do a lot of fossil hunting and a lot of tracking. And I'm constantly looking for, things that other animals have left behind and why are they leaving it. So that's why, and what became of the wildlife DNA collections kit was for me to help me to know whether there's something possibly going on. You get people all the time who'll, show you some hair online with their bare fingers, and I'm just like, well, why don't you just lick it now? At this point, it's no good to anybody. If you want some true scientific research to be done on it, you got to go about it with a scientific mind. That's my purpose. Now, I know there's others that want to really get out there and just have that experience, and that's great, and I don't blame them. But right. I want to bring something back. I think Bigfoot, Sasquatch, cryptids in general are just way more important than my emotional needs. I feel that I owe it to Sasquatch itself, the species itself, to be true to the research that I'm trying to do as just an average, everyday lady from the suburbs of Dallas, Texas. I was raised by a law enforcement officer, and he would expect nothing less of me than to bring back facts instead of my fun little stories. So
right.
Back to your question, I haven't really had much happen to me that I would call Sasquatch evidence here in Texas. But then again, I've got many, many witnesses that have reported to me that were, police officers. I've got a fishing buddy that didn't even know what I did because I don't really talk about it too much out of my fishing adventures simply because I hang with a lot of rednecks. And I'll say, what, girl, you know, they can give you some sass when you start talking. And I don't really need that. I'm there to, I'm there to fit. But I've got a gentleman that just found out what I did and just sent a trackway that happened here in Texas that his son found and actually witnessed the thing in the woods staring at him. And the young man apparently broke down in tears. And I just told my husband, I said, we need to be getting in contact with our buddies so we can go out and do an investigation, even though this happened in the spring. But anyway, I hope that answers your question. Sorry.
I'm sorry I was off the mic.
Oh, you're fine.
Oh, hold on just a minute. Besides the Pacific Northwest and Texas, where else have you been?
I've researched in Georgia, Oklahoma, Arkansas, New Mexico, California. I just came back from the kill site in the Sierras with Bart Catino. I did 5 days with him there and a couple other gentlemen. Let's see, in Oregon and Washington. I'm trying to think where else I've been. As of right now, I think that's it as far as Bigfoot research so far.
So what is your favorite place?
I'm sorry?
What is your favorite place so far?
My favorite place, it has to be the Cascades in Washington State. I've been on every mountain peak that's there, the main ones, Mount Hood, that's in Oregon. Mount Rainier, I adore. Mount Adams has become a new addiction for me. Mount St. Helens. Oh, actually, I was one of the first 2 women in 2016, last year, I think it was. Myself and another female by the name of Abigail were invited by Mark Marcel, and we hiked up to the Ape Canyon incident area, and we're the first women to ever be there. We're actually the only women that have ever been there. That was quite an adventure and such an honor to be a part of. Very interesting. One thing I can tell you, in all of these places, I've been to almost all the major significant places with the exception of Bluff Creek that you hear about on the internet, like Ape Canyon, the kill site. I'm trying to think of other places, but all of them that I've been to, what I have found so interesting, because I'm always looking at similarities and differences, in these significant areas. Every one of them, the incidences you think of when you're thinking of, like, say, Ape Canyon, you're thinking of, okay, there was a log cabin here, it was a 10 by 20, it was on a cliff, and there were these Bigfoots on stones and all this. They're tiny little areas. Once you get there, you're like, wow, really? Just like the kill site. It's nothing really like what I thought it would be. And then, of course, the reason I went there was not only because it was a kill site, but because of Bart Catino's FLIR evidence that he captured. There, after he became friends with Justice Mail and he was investigating that, he went back time and time again, and this one time he went back where he captured that FLIR evidence. When you're looking at it online, you're thinking, oh, wow, they're like way over there. No, they're just right there on top of that campsite. I mean, these things were close.
Wow.
So it's very interesting as your perceptions of what you think you're going to see, by learning all the things you can about that one site before you go, and then you get there and you're like, whoa, this was up close and personal, So that's one thing that I find extremely just fascinating about these incidences is how close in contact these things were to the people that were having the experience.
Hey, we talked about the kill zone. What are you talking about What particular incident are you talking about when you speak about that?
What incident is the Justin Semeja kill site? You know of that, right? Where supposedly Justin Semeja killed a baby Bigfoot and a grown Bigfoot? You don't. Girl, you
know. Okay, I will.
Yeah. Okay, so, I mean, I can just give you a little bit of a breakdown. A gentleman who is a hunter by the name of Justin Semeja, and I've not met Justin. I was hoping to meet him, and I did not. And a lot of people dislike him because, you know, he supposedly killed a Bigfoot that was standing in this meadow, waving, I guess, from the road. They were on the road, and he shot it. And it ran over a berm and kind of disappeared. Him and his friend apparently tried to follow it, and two baby Bigfoots came out, or two juveniles, or whatever you want to call them. And he supposedly killed one of the infants, or the younger of the two. They buried it under some brush and came back and tried to find the body and turn in the evidence to. It was all on the documentary with Sykes, and they did DNA testing on what came back, and it came back there, and but don't take it from me. I can't. You need to research that whole episode yourself, but it's pretty famous. People have extremely, really in-depth emotional views about him and what happened and whether he's a liar or not. Honestly, it doesn't matter to me. What matters to me was the FLIR footage that Bart Catino took at the exact same site. I want to say weeks later. I can't remember, or I don't remember. No, it was probably months later. But exact same site. Like, we're literally talking less than a football field from each other. So,
well, I feel absolutely ashamed and uninformed because I've never heard of this.
I think we had somebody on that was talking about it. I think we had somebody on a while back that was talking about it.
Maybe
How long ago was that?
That happened, I don't even know now how many years ago. It's been 5 or 6 or something like that. It was highly controversial, and it still bothers people to this day. You know, because you've got people out there calling him a murderer and all that kind of stuff. And there's a whole series of videos on it, and just research it. And it's the Sierra Kills, I believe, is what it's called. So, but like I said, you know, I want to see these sites. I want to see what people. It's very much my quest is. I can only gather so much information from a person that's telling me about their incident. You know, I need to meet that person in the field, see what they're talking about, be in the location, and then take it from there, whether I decide to research more on it or just put that in the interesting file. Because what I want to gather is the information that's surrounding the incident. You know, why was it here? What was it doing? What food resources are here? Was it traveling through? Does it live here? So on and so on.
What happened with the bodies, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, they never found it. From what I gathered,
they supposedly, I guess they found some hair where the body site was, and didn't they say it was like it wasn't even anything significant?
Yeah,
it was like an elk hair or something like that, right?
I think it came back bare. I think Sykes.
And then wasn't this the same guy that supposedly had blood on his boots from when he drugged the body?
Mm-hmm.
He sent his boots off, and it.
Yeah, and Bart Catino sent those boots off, and from what I understand, they're still being studied, or they're still trying. I'm not sure. I did, like I said, I did not get to talk to Justin, so I can't really reiterate what happened other than what's on the internet. And honestly, that wasn't really why I was there. I was there because of Bart's FLIR footage, which was way more important to me. I know, people freaked out when they even heard I was going there. I'm like, well, why? It's an important place. Two important, one important thing happened, I know for sure, which is Bart Catino's FLIR footage. And another thing happened there that was prior to Bart Catino's FLIR footage that brought him there. So whether people believe Justin or not, I don't care. But I wanted to be there because I know Bart and I know what he got, and it's important.
I apologize. I'm back again. Oh, well, I do apologize that I'm not a...
Oh, no worries.
It does seem like it brings that back to me, but I'm really... I guess I just don't think that...
Well,
we had a guy on. I know I remember it. I can't remember who he was, though. I think this was before I actually kind of got more involved in it. I was just, on the radio, but I was listening with everybody before I even started speaking. I remember him telling the whole thing, and the guy that was talking about it, he thought it was just a complete hoax. He didn't want anything to do with it. He was just kind of telling the story of what had been told. Man, I'd have to go back and watch some of the YouTube stuff.
I'm sure your listeners can fill you in, and I guarantee you they will. There's so many people that have such controversial views, and I understand that. And like I said, I was very interested in the location, and it's in the Sierra Nevadas, and it was absolutely wonderful. Nothing happened, but I was very glad to be able to see the whole area and to listen to Bart talk about, the FLIR footage. And there's pictures of myself in the exact same spot that these things were. And my friend Todd Hale, who was there that witnessed this footage, it was incredible. Just the things that had happened to them and what they were seeing, and Bart being able to go back to camp and grab a battery and then go back and video more. It just was really just, when you get into these areas where things like that happen, it's just overwhelming, especially when someone has, and you believe them, and they're credible witnesses, and they have something to show you that says it's not just them, and there's other people involved that are very credible. And that was a very memorable experience for me, even though we didn't have any activity. Being there, just hearing the guys talk about what had happened with the footage was just amazing, and a privilege to be listening to at the location that had happened. Mm-hmm. So,
yes.
Well, we have 6 minutes left, and I just wanted to ask you, well, I know I told Lauren to take over because I've been coughing so bad, but I just have one question, and Lauren, I'll let you have it.
That's all right.
What would be your advice for the new people out there that are taking up the torch for the finding out Bigfoot truth?
Sure. Well, I would say probably the number one thing, if you're going to go out and do any kind of quote-unquote research, is to make yourself very familiar with wildlife sounds and activity in general.
Oh, yeah.
That is probably the number one thing that leads people to believe that there's something going on when it's just natural occurrences. Or, the thing I like to tell people is small animals make big noises, and big animals usually make small noises. So if you're hearing something rustling through the woods, it's probably an armadillo or a skunk or a possum or a deer. You know, a lot of the wildlife are bedded down during the day simply because of the heat and move about, you know, in the cooler hours of the evening and at night and early in the morning. But being very, very, and you know, another thing is don't be complacent with the idea that because you're from the area that you know everything that's going on in the woods. What you don't know, you don't know. I find sometimes when it's almost better for me to get out of the South and go into regions that I don't know because I research harder on what these wildlife noises, sounds, activities are. And I'm finding that animals in general are starting to adapt to what the humans are doing, which is encroaching on their land. And that makes a lot of animals start doing things that they haven't necessarily always done in the past. So when I go to the Pacific Northwest and someone tells me, no, that's not a this or that, but I have found that evidence is true to another region for that same type of animal, I'm like, you don't know because you don't know because they haven't been doing that in this area. Maybe they are now because they're being encroached on. I'm not really sure, but I will tell you that that's probably the number one thing is to really, really research. That's what the Internet's there for. It's a great thing. You know, sometimes I believe that Bigfoot went to hell when, you know, insanity met the Internet. Because we got all that crazy stuff going on, you know, before Internet came along, you know, we didn't have paranormal Bigfoot, but I guess we do now. Anyway, that would be my number one. Number two, be well-equipped when you go into an area with, you know, obviously water, a lighter. I know that many people claim to carry a striker when they're in the woods and, you know, to light fire with, but I guarantee you 99.9% of them do not practice with it. Practice what you preach. Get out and practice your casting. Always carry casting material. Throw it in the back of your vehicle. You don't have to take it out. Just put a gallon-sized baggie with some casting material and a bottle of water and an extra baggie and practice your casting techniques. This is going to tell you way more than just that, whether it's a Bigfoot tracker or not. If you practice on things like coyotes, skunks, possums, raccoons, it teaches you how to learn movement and tracking skills. It teaches you what to look for in the displacement of the earth beneath the animal's tracks or impressions. It teaches you whether it's a true impression or just a rock that was washed out of the water. Also, always carry a recorder, a little simple recorder. I carry two at all times so that I can put one out and I can also put one in my hat band. Don't put one in your pocket because it's going to only pick up the noises of your shirt rustling. Try to put it on your headband, like in your cap with a headlamp. I always have a headlamp on, so stick it in there. And then just keep researching and working in the field. Always think Bigfoot last. It's never the first thing we should come to. And be discipline-minded. Take your emotions out of the research and only put forth what is truth that you can prove. Your stories are great, and they're exciting, and unless you've seen Bigfoot do it, you just can't say it was a Bigfoot. I guess that's about it. For the beginner, anyway.
Very well said. Very well said.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shelly, for coming on our show. We've enjoyed it very, very much. And we'd love for you to come back sometime.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Well,
I
absolutely.
do believe you are number one Bigfoot researcher.
Well, I don't know about that, but thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I would love to come down anytime you ladies want to go out. Let me know.
That would be awesome. I want to wait till I'm not hacking. I'll scare everything off right now, but
understandable. I completely get it, girl. You know, The fall is the time, you know, and
yes, it is. It's the best time.
Sure, and I will shoot you a message if I'm ever headed down south for. Well, I will be. You can guarantee I'm going to come down there this probably in the next month or two. I'm on my way to doing the Texas Bigfoot Conference in October. And anybody that would like to purchase a wildlife DNA kit, please contact me. You can either see me at the conference and purchase them there. They're only $35. They're up to human standards. There's everything in the kit that you could possibly need for any kind of hair collection or DNA collection. It also has instructions, and if you're collecting hair, we can send it off to Cindy Dosen, who works with the Olympic Project with me, and she does hair analysis for free. So, anybody can contact me at Shelly Covington-Montana on Facebook, and that's the best way to contact me, or at scovington1963@gmail.com.
And what day is the conference?
It is October, the weekend of the 6th. Shoot.
Okay.
I think it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Let me look. I'm so sorry. I've honestly, since I got home, I've just been a vegetable. Running around, living in a tent for 3 months. You know, I did really well, and then as soon as I got home, I mean, I just kind of just fell flat, you know, and
isn't it wonderful how good that bed feels?
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing better than that bed. It's like, oh, my bed, I just missed you so much.
I know, and my husband was so sweet. And I have to say, and anybody that knows my husband everybody loves my husband. He's amazing. He's the guy you want to go with on an outing because he's the camp cook, and he makes sure that everybody is taken. Oh, he's amazing. I mean, I've been married to him for 30 years, and it doesn't feel like it feels like we just started dating. He's a true supportive husband that I'm very fortunate to have. Let me look here on the conference dates. I apologize, but I believe it's the 5th, 6th, and 7th. Craig's going to kill me for not knowing the exact date. And I'm not very good with phones and gadgets and things like that. But I know it's the 6th. Let's see. It should be on my Facebook page. I can, let's see. They were talking about, so when I was in the field, I ate slugs while I was there. Well, you know, you got to know, yeah, it's October 6th, the weekend of the 6th and the 7th. And it's in Jefferson, Texas. I highly recommend you guys coming out because the lineup of speakers is really great.
Okay.
Cliff Brackman will be there. Let's see. He's got everybody on here. Let's see. Meet and greet dinner. Cliff, Lyle. Let's see. Confirmed speakers. David Weatherly. He's an author for At War with Sasquatch. Let's see who else. Jen Gerhardt. We all know Jen.
He's coming on our show in a few weeks.
Yeah, he's so sweet. I love Ken's my bud. Lyle Blackburn will be there. Let's see, meet and greet. I'm just looking at all the people he's got in his lineup. And, of course, that's not what I want. Chester Moore. Chester Moore is an amazing man who specializes in red wolf and other cryptids as well as large cats here in the South. He's not far from me, ladies, I believe. Jerry Heston will be there, Monica Rawlings. a lot of great people, a great lineup.
Sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's always a good event because there's zero woo-ness going on there as far as speakers. So, which, I mean, sorry if I offend anybody, but it just is a distraction for me. So there's none of that going on while at the Texas conference, which I love.
Yes, yeah, definitely. That's definitely awesome. Well, we want to thank you again for coming on, and thank you for giving us all that info. We're going to have to start advertising that on our show for sure. So we'll look up that info, and we'll do a little clip for it. But we want to thank you again for coming on and for chatting with us. Like, yeah, we would love to have you back, and definitely hope we get to meet you in person.
Sure.
All right. Well,
I would love that.
Yes, that would be awesome, especially since you're so close, Everyone we interview is so far away. So, I mean, yeah, we definitely need to make that happen.
Well, I would love that, ladies and gentlemen. I truly appreciate you giving me a few hours of your time, or an hour and a half, and I appreciate the invite. It was I'm quite humbled to be asked to speak anywhere, and I wish you all the best of luck, ladies, in your research, and hopefully we can all get together sometime. Sure.
Definitely.
That would be awesome.
Definitely. Thank you again for coming on, everybody, and thank you, everyone, for listening. And we will be back next week, same time, same bat channel.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Good night. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.